We start real slow. You just put your lips together and you come real close. Can you blow my whistle, baby? Whistle, baby. Here we go.
Welcome on in to the Philly Influencer Live podcast. I am Tyler Trumbauer, taking over once again here in our Turkey Day week here on the Philly Influencer Live podcast. Thank you all for tuning in, and of course, little flow rider with whistle there because, I mean, the Eagles have had a lot of whistles blown against them with these referees as of late. And joining me today to talk about those birds, we have the Bitter Birds man, the man that does all the videos, the breakdowns, the Eagles guru. We call him AD. Adrian Fedku is with us on the podcast. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Turkey Day tomorrow. You know, I can't wait. Can't wait to chop on a turkey leg. Can't wait to stuff myself with some stuffing, some apple pie, some pumpkin pie. I can't wait. Some pumpkin beer. You're 21 now, so you can partake as well. I cannot wait for tomorrow, and I cannot wait for Monday Night Football. I will be at the game. Eagles and Packers. We'll find out Monday if the Eagles are packing it in for the season.
That's very true, Adrian. I like that. I like that momentum, and thank you, yes, for recognizing that I am now of the legal age that I could pretty much do anything in America. Yeah. Other than before 18, you could just play the lottery, smoke cigarettes, and buy stupid stuff off the television. But besides all of that, sir, you know, the main thing, we got football tomorrow, a lot of good stuff for Thanksgiving. I can't wait. But the Eagles, we got to wait a day longer, and they face the Packers, primetime television, ESPN on Monday night with a game that we thought might have been a disaster. If you looked at the schedule in the preseason, you would expect the Aaron Rodgers-led Green Bay Packers to come on in, and we thought he was going to just mop the floor with the lowly Sam Bradford-led Eagles, and now look at the difference. Now we have Carson Wentz and the roller coaster season of the Eagles, and the Packers are certainly not the Packers of old. But before we get into that, looking at the Eagles and this past week against Seattle, you know, decent size loss, but I don't think the score is indicative of how different of a game that was. It wasn't that close. But we were talking before we went on air, and you were kind of taking some positives away from that. What was your biggest takeaway that kind of made you not so pessimistic about the Eagles like I kind of am leaving that game?
Well, we were never going to win that game, so I already marked that as an L beforehand. So, you know, that was just whatever. I wasn't as pissed off as everybody else was. Now, from a philosophical standpoint, there are some positives that I'm seeing out of Doug Peterson and the way he's using the Eagles tight ends. If you look at the Atlanta game, I believe it was 17 of Carson Wentz's 25 completions went to running backs and tight ends. And last Sunday, it was 13 of 26, I believe. But a lot of those, you know, completions to the wide receivers, they came late in the game in garbage time. So earlier on in the game, they were utilizing Trey Burton a lot more than they have been in recent weeks. They were lining him out wide. We saw a lot more of the three tight end sets with Zach Ertz, Brent Selleck, Trey Burton. We saw it on the goal line there. So there are some positive things that I'm seeing. The offensive line is run blocking a lot better than they have been, especially earlier on in the season. This was a Seattle defense that was allowing 3.5 yards per carry, and the Eagles, I believe, they had 4.35 yards per carry against that defense. So that's very, very good. And this is a Packers defense coming up. I mean, they've been pretty stingy against the run all year. They can't stop the pass. But, there are some positive things, believe it or not, that I took away from that game in terms of Doug Peterson and his philosophy on offense, because I believe he's cost the Eagles at least 2 to 3 games this season. So he's finally, maybe just finally, starting to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, going to take a few bruises before Dougie P will figure it out. And you're right with the increase in the tight end usage, and, you know, I'm happy about that. But at the same time, I sat Zach Ertz on fantasy because they haven't been getting the ball to the tight end. So a give and take there. I wish I would have got the memo from Doug that he was going to do that a little bit more. But anyway, you know, looking back at that game, so there's the positives, the tight ends. And the other issue is they can't catch the ball all the time. The wide receivers are supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. However, the Eagles wide receivers don't catch the ball. No. So what are your thoughts on Nelson Agholor, and how do you feel if you're Doug Peterson, you would handle that situation? Because I think if he plays him at home, he might not make it out there alive.
Yeah, I think Nelson Aguilar is mentally just too fragile for the NFL because I think there is some talent there. There is something there, the way he can, when he gets the ball in his hands, the way he can go after the catch. I mean, if you remember the drop, obviously we all remember Twitter exploded. He caused a lot of separation against Richard Sherman. That's something underlying that people aren't talking about. But he dropped the ball. He always drops the ball. That's what he's been doing. Basically, here's what it is. He gets in his head too much. He admitted this. And if you remember the comments he made a couple weeks ago about his drops, like not being a big deal or whatever, he only had one drop on the year coming into that, those post-game comments. After that, he's had like 3 or 4. So that tells me mentally he's just too fragile for the NFL and too fragile for Philadelphia. I don't know what they're going to do with the guy because his cap hit, you're going to have to basically keep him next year unless somebody wants to trade for him. I don't know if you can swap 7th-round picks at this point. But, yeah, I think he's done in Philadelphia. And I'm surprised the song you had the whistle song from Flow Rider. You should have been playing Drop It Like It's Hot for Nelson Aguilar.
I should have, and I apologize on that. Next time I will consult you on the music selection.
It's all good.
But I think the saddest thing about Aguilar, and you're right, he does have talent, but the saddest thing is not only that he's turning out to be somewhat of a bust.
Oh,
he's a bust. He's not a first-round talent. He's got talent, but not should have been selected in the first round, and that just comes back to the lovely Chip Kelly era that we all fondly look back on here in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with Paul Turner, with Bryce Treggs. We'll see. I mean, it's like I'm not getting my hopes as high as a lot of other people are. I mean, these guys went undrafted for a reason. Paul Turner is a kind of slow guy. He's kind of a small guy, but he's got great hands and he can make catches in traffic. He was putting up great numbers in the preseason, led the preseason in catches, I believe. But he was doing this against second and third stringers. So we shall see what he does against, starters. But the Packers secondary right now is in, complete chaos. So maybe he will be able to do something. Bryce Treggs is a one-trick pony. He can get deep. That's about, pretty much all he can do. If you remember the Giants game, he had that big catch, but that was basically due to a miscommunication in the secondary. The cornerback was trying to pass him off to the safety, and the safety was late in his recovery, so Treggs just ran right past him. So, obviously a lot of concerns. DGB has not played up to his potential, and hell, maybe this is just what he is, because, man, like, everyone's talking about Nelson Aguilar, but DGB has been just as bad. His drop rate, I believe, is actually worse than Nelson Aguilar's, but nobody's talking about that. So that's interesting to me. So, yeah, it's just complete, utter trash all the way around the wide receiving core. Remember in that game, at one point, Russell Wilson had as many yards as the Eagles wide receivers. Some of that had to do with the ineptness. The other part of it had to do with Doug Peterson getting the tight ends involved. So, it's really, really concerning. Howie Roseman didn't do anything during the offseason. He brought in cheap free agents such as Ruben Randall and Chris Givens. These guys were cut before the season. So, this is what we have to work with right now, and that's just what it is.
Right. And now do you buy into the fact that the Eagles did the right decision by not going out and getting a receiver, by sticking to their guns and not giving in to the price point that the Niners were looking for Torrey Smith, or I'm sure there were other players they were looking at, but of course Torrey Smith being the number one type of the target that they were talking about during that free agency. Personally, I think, yes, they should have stuck to their guns, and they did, and I was happy for that. But do you feel, and especially now we kind of have a better perspective because we have hindsight now because we were a few weeks past the deadline and we see how porous the wide receiving core is. Do you feel the Eagles made the right decision and Howie Roseman did well by actually being reserved, which is something we haven't seen from Howie Roseman since he's come back into power?
I completely agree with what they did. Torrey Smith is what were they asking for? It was like a 3rd-round pick again.
I think it was a 3rd.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have traded like a 5th or a 6th for Torrey Smith. His cap hit is way too high. I believe it's like $10 million or something. And he's a guy that's regressing. I get that. He worked with the he was with the Baltimore Scouts. What's his name? I'm blanking right now. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy. He's a deep threat. He's like a number 2. You're just adding another guy that's just whatever. I'd rather just wait for free agency at this point. You could go after Alshon Jeffrey. Maybe his price tag is going to be a little bit lower now because of that, the PED suspension. But another guy I'm looking at is Terrell Pryor in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
He's lighting it up right now. He might actually come a little bit cheaper, and he looks like a deep threat that could really help Carson Wentz out, stretch the field a little bit. Alshon Jeffrey can get deep too. He's great on the back shoulder ball, using his body, so physical at the catch point. So I would wait. I would have waited till free agency. I wasn't like huge on getting a guy before the trade deadline, unless it was for Jeffrey for the right price. But obviously at this point we know his PED suspension, so it was a blessing in disguise that they didn't go after him.
Right, and Terrell Pryor, I agree, and I watch every game with my dad, and he gets very, very upset at Nelson Aguilar, things I can't say, even on a podcast, because I just have respect for myself. But and Terrell, but he always brings up Terrell Pryor as well. And as a guy that needs to be in Philadelphia next season, do you feel the Browns, and I know the kind of the way they've been going right now is they've been kind of just collecting assets, almost like a Sam Hinkie type of thing. We want draft picks, we want players. Do you feel that they're willing to let Terrell Pryor walk and lose in a bidding war? Or because if I'm the Browns, I'm thinking this guy legitimately is one of the most talented players on our team, can help us in multiple ways. I don't think we should let him walk out the door. But do you feel the Browns are going to have that perspective, or they're going to be, you know what, he's not worth it. We're not at that point in time, or one guy's worth overpaying for?
Yeah, they might have that perspective, but if you're Terrell Pryor, do you really want to go back to Cleveland? You know what I mean?
True.
Cleveland. Everybody has been leaving Cleveland after their rookie contracts, it seems like. So
Even head coaches.
Yeah. So I think he's a goner, and I think free agency is the way to go at wide receiver, because in terms of the draft, there's not as much talent as there's been in recent years. You got Corey Davis of Western Michigan, you got Mike Williams of Clemson. Those guys are pretty good, but it's not like it's been in recent past. So I would attack free agency for a wide receiver, and I really like Terrell Pryor. He really caught my eye in the preseason. He was doing a lot of things, and then it translated to the regular season. And yeah, he's been one of the lone bright spots on that Browns team. That's for sure.
So now looking back in the NovaCare complex, because free agency is great, but we'll have how many weeks to discuss that with you? And I know you do that a lot. So focusing back into this week, what do the Eagles do in your prediction with Nelson Aguilar? Is it a activate, but he's kind of the third string and he doesn't really get a lot of time on the field? Is it a benching, or is it a kind of a little bit of a drop off? He's not a starter. What do you feel how this Nelson Aguilar thing plays out this week, knowing what Doug Peterson has said so far in his press conferences and kind of alluded to maybe one step back, two step forward type of process?
Yeah, the way I kind of interpreted that press conference, we'll see how it plays itself out in terms of snap counts and stuff. But I thought Doug very, very, very nicely benched him. That's kind of the way I interpreted it. He's getting benched, and basically, if the other guys don't produce, maybe he'll get his spot back. Maybe in a week or two or whatever. That's kind of the way I interpreted it. So, I mean, if you really think about it, how much is there really a drop off right now from Nelson Aguilar to Paul Turner or Bryce Treggs? I mean, is there? Probably not at this point. The way Nelly is going, he's so far in his head that he does need to take a step back, literally. And it's funny that Doug Peterson was talking about himself and him doing that. Well, once he lost his job to Donovan McNabb, he didn't get it back. I thought that was funny.
And breaking news coming on into the Philly Influencer Live podcast. Not Eagles related though, but I'm going to get on this in a little bit later on the website after we are done here, sir. The Phillies are not taking an early holiday. Made a trade earlier for reliever Cordero, heading to the Nationals for some cash or money or bag of baseballs coming back later. And the Phillies have released right-handed pitcher David Buchanan which I think is pretty interesting. Buchanan has been kind of almost a lifer in the Phillies minor league system. We saw he's had a couple cups of coffee in the major leagues, and I thought he might have a legit shot at getting into the rotation for 2017, but instead, now the day before we are to give thanks, he is getting a pink slip. So, interesting on that. How much baseball do you do, Adrian?
I know a little bit. I not as much as Eagles, not as much as the Sixers. Those are my bread and butters. The Phillies are like third, and hockey's like a distant fourth. But
hey, don't say that. You're the one that's in the press box.
Yeah, well, I always make fun of myself in the press box, and then I write fire, so it's all good.
Right. I mean, what do you? We got to just watch what we say about the Flyers because I hear they pull credentials pretty easily. So we can't really get on them too much. But nonetheless, back to the Eagles and your bread and butter, as you said.
Yeah.
What are your early thoughts about the Packers game this Monday night? Obviously, I don't want to give away too much because everyone needs to, get onto your in-depth preview because I tout it every time I retweet it. The best previews and recaps on the internet come from you. And, of course, also the Twitter videos throughout the game. I like to watch them, but at the same time I don't because it just pisses me off again when I watch that stuff. But what are your early thoughts on the Packers Monday night contest?
Well, I know their defense stinks right now. It's awful. The number of yards and points they've allowed the last 2 weeks is like really astounding. 480.5 yards to both the Titans and Redskins. They've averaged 44.5 points. So, it's a lack of depth in the secondary and the linebacking core. That's what's really biting the Packers in the backside right now. They're really, really, really struggling in the secondary. They've had some injuries, so if the Eagles wide receivers are gonna make some hay and make some noise, it's this Monday night because this is a Packers defense that can get gotten.
But if the Eagles receivers can't get anything done this Monday, how furious will that make the entire fan base and the team overall? I mean, like you said, this is your chance for, I wouldn't say redemption, but to show yourself that you're somewhat of a credible receiver in the National Football League. But if the defense of the Packers is able to keep these receivers restrained, which doesn't seem to be too hard for other teams, what does that say about these receivers moving forward? I mean, they might all just be in a fetal position like Nelson Aguilar.
Well, then you bench all of them and just play your tight ends. Just kidding. But yeah, I mean, hey, like seriously though, Sam Shields, Demarius Randall, these two guys, they've been basically out for most of the season. Shields is a guy that plays the deep ball really well, and Randall is a guy that's, I believe, in his second year. He played safety in college. Now he's playing cornerback. He's pretty good too. So if you got to get it going with the wideouts in this game, but at the same time, their linebackers aren't good either, and they've been dealing with depth issues there. So the tight ends, I believe they can really make some hay against those guys as well. So I really think they'll be able to move the ball in offense. They should be able to. You would think so. And we'll see about the running game. The Packers are a little bit more stingy against the run, but the Eagles, they had a good yards per carry average against a Seattle defense that was third in yards per carry allowed at 3.5. So, there's some signs. I'm seeing some signs, even though other people may not have saw them last week.
Right. Now, diving into that running game for the Eagles, personally, I want Wendell Smallwood to start. Why not? That's my argument. Why not? I mean, you can't sustain having Darren Sproles be your every down back, which they did a couple weeks ago, and he did well. But look, now he's banged up a little bit. He's not practicing, and he's just an older guy. He's better as that change of pace type of player. And Ryan Matthews, despite him running hard and despite him being a little bit more secure at the football as of late, I don't trust him. I just don't. I have trust, but as a person, maybe to a fault. Once you lose my trust, like it's gone. You can't buy that back. And I just think Wendell Smallwood might be the running back of the future, at least right now. So why don't you start Wendell Smallwood?
I actually like Ryan Matthews better. I think he's been really running really well the last 2 weeks, but the problem is he's hurt right now. He's day to day, so we'll see how healthy he really is. His cuts have been a lot more decisive. He's bouncing to the outside correctly. He's been a lot better the last 2 weeks. He struggled earlier on in the season. Obviously, his yards per carry was really low. Wendell Smallwood, I don't think he has the same burst that Matthews has. He's also more of a one-cut north-south type of runner. Matthews can do a little bit more, I believe. But Smallwood is still, he's an intriguing talent. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. We'll really see what they do moving forward, because I do have a feeling that Matthews is going to get cut during the offseason, and they might attack the draft with a running back, because there's a lot of good running backs this season in the draft. Obviously you got Leonard Fournette, you got Dalvin Cook just to start. There's a lot of good guys. So
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Well, if you're a Penn State guy, sure. I'm a Temple guy, so I'm not a big Penn State guy. But yeah, he's got
Penn State Temple aside. You got to just look
at
Saquon Barkley setting records.
I'm just joking around. Saquon Barkley's very, very talented. There's a lot of you got Nick Chubb. You got McCaffrey at Stanford. It's loaded. It really is. And so Smallwood to me is like he's like that change of pace guy. Sproles has been playing this year. Yeah, Sproles is the guy. He shouldn't be getting more than 10, 15 carries a game. I am in a complete agreement with you in that. Sproles, I like the way they utilize him on third downs the last couple of weeks, having him with the option routes, using him on the option routes, because he's been picking up every 3rd and 4. It's been easy pickings. As long as Carson Wentz has put the ball on target, they've been moving the chain. So I like the way, again, going back to Doug Peterson, it seems like he's really starting to figure out how to utilize his assets on offense. So I am encouraged moving forward. We shall see.
That one drive, the first touchdown scoring drive against Seattle, that was beautiful play calling for Doug Peterson. That truly was. Mm-hmm. And I wish we could just see that all the time from him, because then there's other times you're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I'm not a big Doug Peterson fan, I'll tell you that right now. But I understand you got to give him a chance and stuff. There's been so many head-scratching things from him this year. I get it, he's a rookie coach, but it's going back to the 4th downs from a couple weeks ago. It's I'm not pissed that they went for the 4th downs. It was the play calling. Like you're going laterally with Carson Wentz on a 4th and 2 on a quarterback sweep, and then the other 4th down, Darren Sproles is your short yardage guy, and you're running behind Halapoulivaati Vaitai, your worst offensive lineman. Like it's just so many head scratching things. And in that formation, they had 2 tight ends on the left hand side. So Doug's like, oh well, I'm gonna trick them and run to the right behind my worst tackle. Well, that didn't work. So it's right. He gets too cute, and I don't like it.
And that's one thing that's like the National Football League. I think a lot of people don't understand, or they try to out trick themselves. You're in the NFL. You have a yard or 2 to go. Just run the damn ball forward. That's all you got to do.
Run a quarterback sneak. We finally saw it this week.
That's true. That is true. It's so easy to pick up at least a couple feet or a yard if you need it with a quarterback sneak. Just by your natural push of your offensive lineman, you're going to get there. Yeah. So I don't know why everyone tries to do silly, gadgety kind of stuff in short yardage situations. But speaking of the Wentz wagon, who we did see with the quarterback sneak, what are your thoughts on him? Obviously, he's kind of, flattened out, a little bit here. And I'm obviously going way back here in the season because this is our first time having you on the podcast.
Yeah.
But obviously you get to tout all your wisdom on the verdict with Sean as well. But you have to think that this can't all be put on his shoulders, that he's not able to do what he wants to do. And I feel he's lost a lot of trust because of the offensive line with losing Lane Johnson and having some other injuries. And then now every time he throws to a damn receiver, they don't catch the ball most likely. So do you blame the receivers or other outside variables on Wentz's lack of continued success that he saw in the beginning of the season, or do you have another reason? There
have been mechanical flaws, and I think, Philly fans, from what I've heard and just talking to a lot of Eagles fans, they like to use the excuses. And I'm not sure if it's insecurities because Dak Prescott is lighting it up right now, but there are some mechanical flaws. Sure, I mean he's got no weapons. I mean that hurts him considerably. You look at Dak Prescott's situation; he's got best running back in the league this season. He's got the best offensive line in the league. He's got Des Bryant. He's got Cole Beasley. He's got Jason Witten as a safety valve. I mean, he's in the easiest situation you can be in for a rookie quarterback. Here in Philadelphia, it was an inconsistent offensive line. They've been a lot better the last couple of weeks, so that's why I'm a little bit reluctant to give him a pass. He's the least of my worries, but I'm seeing mechanical flaws in terms of setting his feet. It's not as smooth as it was the first 3 weeks of the season. A lot of his balls are sailing. I'm also seeing him perceiving pressure. He's scrambling out of the pocket when he's got a clean pocket, and he didn't have to, scramble out of it. He could have just stuck in there a couple more seconds. This is something I talked about on tape a couple weeks ago. I had a film study on him. So I've seen that. So I've seen him lock on to receivers, not really go through his progressions. But at the same time, it's like, he's a rookie quarterback. What do you really expect? He's putting up the same numbers as Russell Wilson did his rookie season. So to say that he sucks is like completely ridiculous. But I am nitpicking, and you can nitpick him. It's okay. It's all right, Philadelphia. You're allowed to. He's going to be a great quarterback. And, I love the hell out of him. I'm on the Wentz wagon, that's for sure.
You got to be on the Wentz wagon at this point. I mean, it's would be illegal not to and be an Eagles fan. So, looking at the Packers, we talked about the defense of the Green Bay being suspect, and this could be a good kind of, reunion tour and let's happy-go-lucky and kumbaya moment for the wide receivers of the Eagles. But what about that offense, which hasn't been as potent as it has been in the past for Green Bay, going up against the Eagles and their secondary, which we all know is
Yeah, it's definitely The key is getting pressure on the quarterback. And for whatever reason, this Eagles defensive line, they got a lot more pressure at home than they do on the road. I don't know what the updated stats are, but I do know coming into that Seattle game, they were averaging 3.8 sacks at home and only 2 on the road. And last week against Russell Wilson, they only had 1 sack, and that was going up against a very, very suspect offensive line. Granted, Russell Wilson can scramble. He's got his mobility back, so his legs look like they're healthy now. But we'll see about the Packers because I know Aaron Rodgers, he's got a quick release. He gets rid of the ball really, really quickly. So we shall see. It also seems like the secondary plays better at home, too, even though, I'll tell you what, man, getting rid of Eric Rowe, that looks like a huge mistake because Leotis McKelvin hasn't been good. Nolan Carroll's had his moments. He plays the deep ball well, but he doesn't tackle well. He doesn't do a lot of other things well. And Jalen Mills is a rookie, and if I see him wag his finger one more time, I'm going to chop it off.
It's so damn annoying. And it's
God.
like he just gets beat for 3 plays, and then the next one is like an uncatchable ball, and he's wagging his finger because it was incomplete.
Yeah, it's awful. Stop it. Stop it, Jalen.
We're telling him right now.
Yeah.
All right, so as we last kind of question on the Birds before we kind of switch things up and head to the hardwood. What are your early predictions for this game? I don't want you to give anything away, obviously, because we do a staff predictions coming up in a few days. We also do you'll have your preview, all that good stuff. But if you could maybe let us know where you're leaning a little bit as of this point in time. Eagles, Packers, Monday night at 8:30 on ESPN. I'm telling you right now, I'm probably picking Green Bay, despite it being at home.
Nice.
And I have picked against the Eagles for like 3 straight weeks. I'm going to continue to it, and I don't see a time where I'm probably not going to do it the rest of the year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, whatever reason, they play a lot better at home. So I will go with the Eagles, but it scares me that the Packers have lost 4 straight and they're 4-6 and their backs are against the wall because I've seen this in previous seasons where they just flip the switch. Aaron Rodgers just starts playing a lot better. And, he was struggling earlier on in the season, but his last 4 games where the Packers have lost 4 in a row, he's thrown 12 touchdown passes and just 3 interceptions, averaging over 300 yards a game. So he's playing a lot better than he did earlier on the season. The problem is that defense. So Yeah, that's I'm leaning Eagles, but it's not going to be easy by any means. I think the Eagles win by like a field goal.
All right, so there we go. Kind of showed our cards a little bit there, but we'll have predictions, the in-depth preview, all the good stuff on PhillyInfluencer.com as this week progresses, because, we do love turkey, but we also do love Philly sports. We'll be continuing the content throughout the holiday week and weekend here. As we transition, got to pay some bills. Colin Good in thegoodteamsells.com. Are you or someone you know trying to sell your house? If yes, please take a moment to read about the new 3D software that the Good Team Sells is providing all of its clients. That will make your property stand out above all other listings. Colin is going the extra mile for his clients by purchasing this camera that takes the potential buyer inside your house. Standing out above all other listings only means your house being sold faster and, of course, more money. Please see some examples below on the page where the podcast will be embedded, and contact Colin Good today. You love extra money, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Sure.
Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, don't sound too excited there, but nonetheless,
I'm very
the Sixers. The Sixers, they love winning back-to-back games. The first time doing that, it was 108 games, I believe.
Actually, I don't know if they love it. They haven't done it 108 games, but it's nice. They've won 4 straight home games, so it's awesome.
That is exciting, because the Wells Fargo Center, it's good to actually see that they had to dust off some of those other seats and put butts in them for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, it's nice. Not too many people on the PI outing we went to. Unfortunately, Joel Embiid, they decided not to play him, but it's been electric when he's been playing. I mean, it's incredible. I just did a post earlier this morning. I mean, it's crazy how well Joel Embiid is shooting the basketball. If he was qualified, he'd be leading the NBA in three-point percentage. He's got 11 three-pointers in his first 10 career games. Steph Curry had 9. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was a stat I saw yesterday. So Joel Embiid can do everything. It's incredible. He can bang you on the block. He's got that mid-range jumper. He's got that pump fake and dribble drive ability from the wings. He can shoot the three. He can defend. He's got help defense. So if you pair him with Jahlil Okafor can't defend, but his help defense is so good. He can mask some of that deficiency. Joel Embiid is a complete player, and it's amazing to watch. I love watching him, and it's just so incredible. He's 7'2", and he's so fluid. You just don't see it out of these big guys.
I think one thing that helps his shooting ability is that he wasn't able to really do anything else for quite a long time while he was injured, and he just kept hoisting up shots, and now it's like, oh, shit, I can still do this and do this well.
Yeah, he was tucking that elbow in. He was, watching some YouTube videos of white guys.
It's not bad to have a 7'2" player of his caliber. I mean, that's just unbelievable to have. So for the Sixers, they finally got Bayless back, and now he's back in this lineup. They got the win against the Miami Heat. That we really saw them put a team away in late minutes, which so much during this process, Brett Brown era, we saw the Sixers have a double-digit lead with maybe 4 or 5 minutes left in the game, and then each minute that just keeps decreasing, and then by the end they're losing, and they go home with the L. What is different about this team now, you think, as compared to a couple weeks ago? Is it just the addition of Bayless? Is it getting the handcuffs off of Okafor? Or what is it? Because obviously Embiid is still growing with his presence, still on that minute restriction, but it looks like he might play again tonight, so he might be playing 4 games in a week. We're looking maybe back-to-backs, finally getting him more in the mix. What is it, you think, is that one X factor that's kind of putting the Sixers into this different realm of a team now?
Don't worry, I do that too on our shows sometimes. I'll be talking Flyers and I'll say Eagles out of the blue. The go-to thing. Yeah, I don't know if it's one thing specifically. It could just be the youngsters just learning how to win. Because this was something Derek Carr was talking about yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. It might have been after Monday Night Football. Just because the Raiders have been so bad, and this year all of a sudden they've learned how to win games, and they've learned how to win close games. Sometimes, you just learn how to win. Once you start learning how to win, the confidence builds up and you just start winning more games. I mean, this team has been so down the doldrums for so many seasons. They're just used to losing, and that's just what it was. So I don't know if it's one thing specifically. I mean, Joel Embiid's playing a lot better last week, which is actually asinine because he was playing really well to start the year too. But I mean, I've noticed even more things out of him, which is incredible. So I think it's just learning how to win from, a young group, and maybe Brett Brown is coaching a little bit better.
So what do you think the Eagles should do, and damn it, the Sixers should do with Embiid moving forward? How much of a gradual process would you do? It sounds like the minute restriction will stay at 24 until at least December 25th, maybe even into the new year. What would your thoughts be? Obviously, not really having the full medical evaluation that obviously the team does, but what would your thoughts be, seeing what you see from him and seeing his progression on the court?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll start playing him in back-to-backs. I got a feeling they're not going to lift that minutes restriction, just from what I've heard, but I could be wrong. What I want to see is him and Okafor playing together a lot more. Since they've taken the chains off Okafor now, they've gotten rid of that minutes restriction. I want to see if they can work out as a tandem, because obviously you got all those trade rumors going around. People not thinking that Okafor can pair with Embiid. I don't think that's true at all. I think Embiid's a type of player that can stretch the floor, and he's good enough defensively to hide Okafor's deficiencies. Because they talk about Okafor not being a good five, and as a center, you're supposed to protect the rim. Well, you don't have to play the five if you're with Embiid. You can play the four. So that's what I would want to see, is see what they can do together. I think Noel is going to be the guy that's gone at this point. I mean, he seems like he just doesn't even want to play here. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Right, and I was just about to bring up about Noel, and I think he should be gone too.
Yeah.
The sad thing, Brett Brown talking about that, he wasn't even around the team, but Brett Brown would have wanted him to be during his rehab. I'm sure that was a decision by Noel. Was like, oh, just ship me to Alabama. I'll go down there, I'll screw around for a couple weeks, then I'll come back up, and now I'm going to practice here for a few weeks. And he doesn't want to be associated with the Sixers, whether he feels that they did him dirty or whatever. He wants to be gone. But who's going to... Do you think there's going to be a market for him? I mean, he's... he had his injury problems coming out of the draft. He showed his great blocking ability, and he's shown what else he can do. But now with another injury, is there really a market for him? And if so, is it that good?
I think there's a market for him, but I don't know if that market is as good as it was during the offseason because of all these shenanigans. He's getting hurt. Well, I don't know if he was necessarily hurt because he didn't really need this surgery. But, yeah, I mean, I think he's a really, really good defender. He's almost an elite defender because of what the different things he can do. Not only is he a rim protector, he can also guard the wings. So he can do two different things on defense. No, he can't score, but he's a great complementary piece if you're trying to win now. If you have some scorers, you need some defense, he's the guy to go to. I heard a rumor about Golden State. I mean, I don't know if that would actually happen. I don't know who they would trade or whatever. I've heard also Toronto. So he's not going to be one of your top two, top three players, but he's a perfect complementary piece if you're trying to win right now because of how good he is defensively. So I think there might be a market for him.
Do you think the Sixers will be motivated to move him in season, or do you think they kind of let this experiment of Noel, Okafor, Embiid, hopefully Simmons back in this year, all four of those, and see kind of miss and match and see what could happen and what would be the best fit? Or do you think the Sixers have a quick trigger if they find something they're going for?
Yeah, I think they're just going to go for it. And that's the thing before the year is that's what I really wanted to find out was how these different pieces could mix and match together, pairing Noel with Embiid, pairing Okafor with Embiid, pairing Simmons with all those guys, pairing Noel with Saric, stuff like that. Just different type of lineups you could have worked with. And, well, we're not seeing that now because Ben Simmons is hurt and Noel doesn't want to play. So, yeah. So I think they're just going to take what they can get at this point. He's a free agent at the end of the year anyway, so you got to get rid of him.
We talked Sixers, I think, 2 podcasts ago when I was still by myself, and I was really down on them. And I was saying how they might not win a game until late November and all this stuff. And now this quick turnaround, and here we go. What do you feel the Sixers can do here moving forward? I mean, the stats show there. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but obviously we saw, they didn't win games in October and November, and now they're doing so, and they're winning decent amount of games, and they're looked more composed. I mean, if you watch the end of that game against the Heat looked like the Sixers did late in games not that long ago, and now the Sixers looked like the team that had their stuff together. What do these Sixers? What's the next step for them moving forward as a team this season to try to still, push themselves back into relevance? And as people like to bring up, they're not that far out of a playoff picture either.
Yeah, I want to see them win some road games because obviously they've won 4 in a row at home and they've won 2 straight overall, but they're not winning on the road. So I'd like to see them win some road games. I also want to see them continue to close out games and also beat some quality opponents because who have they really beaten? They've beaten who? They've beaten the Heat. They've beaten the Suns. I mean, these 2 teams aren't that great. Who else have they beaten? They've beaten Washington. That team's in the basement, and their other win was against Indiana. Indiana's like a playoff team. They're, 7th or 8th right now in the standings. So I want to see them maybe win some games against more quality opponents and win some road games. I don't expect them to be in the playoff picture, obviously, but I want to see some steps going forward in terms of closing out the games. That's all.
So steps going forward, do you feel Brett Brown is the right coach for this team? I know a lot of people are kind of questioning that, and they're saying you can't really take his body of work right now, seriously because look at what he's playing with. Look at what he has out on the court. Do you say that he still has a free pass until Ben Simmons comes back? How long of a free pass does he have? Or do you feel right now we should be critical of Brett Brown and thinking maybe these late game blunders have to do with him? I mean, you call timeouts and you can't. Your inbound plays, your plays at the end of the game are horrendous, and it's not even just execution, which there's problems there. It's you're putting the ball in Gerald Henderson's hands at the end of a game.
Yeah, he doesn't get a pass from me because of what you just said. But at the same time, I do want to see what he can do with Ben Simmons out there on the floor. So there's that. It's kind of like what I was talking about with Wentz earlier. Even though he doesn't have any weapons around him, you're still allowed to be critical of him. And I think the same situation holds true for Brett Brown. So Gerald Henderson has been taking way, way, way too many shots late in games. I'm not a big Henderson guy, even though he's been playing a little bit better lately. But yeah, I'm completely in agreement with you on that. Just his play calls out of timeouts have been pretty horrendous.
What about TLC? I mean, that man, his easy pass bill is going to be insane for all the traveling back and forth. When are we seeing him?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see much from him in the summer league, and I didn't see much from him in the preseason. So for him, he might be better off just in the D League right now. I'll give you a guy who's taken some steps forward though, and that's Nick Stauskas. He was the guy I was very critical of heading into the year, but he's been playing some really, really good basketball lately. He's in the top 10 in three-point shooting percentage. I forget what it is. He's like 46 or 47%, something like that. So he's shooting the ball really, really well, which is something we didn't see from him his first couple years in the league. And he's also driving the ball. So, when you're shooting the ball well, you can utilize the pump fake and get to the rim easier. So Nick Stauskas is a guy that I'm really surprised by the way he's playing. Still can't play like a defense, but offensively, he seems like he might be turning a corner and figuring some stuff out.
Another player, Robert Covington.
Oh.
Should he even – I don't even know. I mean, when you're a one-trick pony and you can shoot the three, you got to always be able to shoot the three. But you can't shoot the three. Go sell cars, man. I mean, he's so frustrating. What are your thoughts on him? Is he even worth the headache anymore?
Well, at least he can play defense really well, but I believe the stretch he was in, he missed like 27 of his last 31 3-pointers at some point. He had a good year last year, but this year he's fallen off a cliff, especially with his shooting, and some of the shots he's taking are like they're contested, so they're not even good quality looks. So I don't know. I don't know who else you'd start in his place. I mean, once Ben Simmons comes back, maybe he'll go down on the bench or whatever. But yeah, that's concerning what I've seen from him this season. That's for sure.
It's not, especially what you saw last year. I mean,
Yeah.
you need someone that can make that knockdown three, and
Yeah.
he was able to do that last year for the most part. Except it was in games that didn't matter. Now, when you really could use a three, there's really nothing there. Someone that looks to be out tonight, or excuse me, not tonight, but in the next game with an illness, Rashawn Holmes.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him? I mean, I think people really had high hopes for him, and he hasn't really, personally, in my opinion, lived up to it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought people's expectations of him were too high. He is what he is, and he's playing the way I kind of felt he would play. I mean, he was a second round pick out of Bowling Green. He had a great summer league, great preseason. Some people went as far as to say that he could, basically take the place of Noel and be the same type of player. I didn't really agree with that. He's good defensively. He's got some offensive game, but he is what he is. He's like 9-10 guy off the bench. He's not anything special. I don't think he's solid. That's it.
One last bill to pay before we wrap things up here on the podcast. If you're bald like Sean, then Skull Shaver is the perfect way to keep your head nice and smooth. Skip the clubs and get with the program. The Skull Shaver is the #1 razor available for bald men, now available at Amazon and Bed Bath & Beyond. Also, be on the lookout for the Skull Shaver Beastmobile before every Eagles home game, including upcoming Monday. Skull Shaver and BeastClipper.com will be out tailgating and giving away free cuts in the D lot. Check out SkullShaver.com for more details. So that Birds game upcoming Monday.
Yeah.
We got your prediction. We know you're excited for it. What the biggest question that I think anyone's going to have, what do you expect from Paul Turner?
I don't know. It might be like Bryce Treggs a little bit. I don't know how many snaps he's really going to see, so it's tough to tell right now.
That's kind of my point.
Yeah,
it's not almost. That's not even what can he do physically or play wise with his skills, but will he get that chance from Doug Peterson? Because it seemed like we had to pull teeth to give Paul Turner a chance, and now he's actually on the active roster. Is he gonna get onto the field?
Yeah, it's I don't know, because like if you think about it, if he's been on the practice squad, how many times has he really gotten to play with Wentz? How much of a cohesiveness do they really have together? Because one of the things I've noticed with Bryce Treggs when Wentz throws the ball to him is he tends to underthrow him, and Treggs is a guy that's so fast, it's kind of easy to underthrow him. So once you build that rapport with a guy, you get that down. So I don't know how many snaps he'll really see, but if Aguilar is getting de facto benched, maybe he is the guy that sees the snaps. I don't know. I would rather, in terms of starting, I would rather have Turner start over Treggs, because Treggs is a one-trick pony. I think Turner can do a little bit more, even though he's not fast, even though he's not going to cause a lot of separation, but he can catch the ball in traffic. I don't know, man. I'm hoping he gets a shot. I don't know who else they would trot out there. You got Jordan Matthews in the slot, DGB, and then who's the other guy? Is it going to be Turner or is it going to be Treggs? It's got to be one of those two, right? So.
Right. No, and I agree. And to your point about the lack of that cohesiveness and that repertoire they have together, I mean, a good time for that to have been built was the preseason. But Carson Wentz decided that, going for those couple extra yards in the preseason was worth it. So he ribs injury. So nonetheless, but I mean, how loud is the Lincoln Financial Field going to be if Paul Turner catches a touchdown?
Oh my God, it's going to explode. Jeez, it'll be like there will be earthquake, reported in Philadelphia. It'll be from Lincoln Financial Field.
Right there from the link, because Paul Turner, I'm hoping for it. That'll just, if he scores a touchdown, I'll be so lit that I won't be able to sleep that night. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can't wait, man. It's such a great story. Undrafted guy, lit up in the preseason. Yeah, I'm really, really curious to see what he can do. That's for sure.
And that is basically what's keeping the intrigue of the Eagles season thus far, and obviously everyone kind of has said these last couple games have been a must-win situation, but now, really coming down to this one, is this one a must-win situation? You say yes, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. If they lose this game, it's season's over.
Right, so here you go. So not only do you have the intrigue of Paul Turner and what will he do, how much time will he see, you also have the entire season hanging in the balance for the rookie campaign for both head coach Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz. Adrian, you are the man, sir. Appreciate the time this afternoon before your Turkey Day tomorrow, with a lot of good football tomorrow as well. Of course, the NFC East, Cowboys, Skins. Couple thoughts on that?
Oh my God, we're rooting for the Cowboys. Oh, shoot myself. We got to root for the Cowboys.
That's the reaction I was expecting.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to
root for the Cowboys for the next couple weeks. It's awful. Oh, at least I'll be like a couple beers in deep by then, so I can just drink my sorrows away.
Go back and get another turkey leg as well. So that's all for us on the Philly Influencer Live podcast. Appreciate you all tuning in, whether you're live on Mixlr with us right now on a Wednesday afternoon, or you're tuning in on demand on SoundCloud, on PhillyInfluencer.com. Adrian Fedke, Bitter Birds, The Verdict with Sean Brace, your man for the vids on Twitter, and with the Eagles and the Sixers. And we know the Flyers coverage is fire, but a distant fourth in his mind. That's Adrian. We appreciate it, sir. I am Tyler Trumbauer. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk to you next week on the Philly Influencer Live podcast, talking more Philadelphia sports.
Later.